Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the 12th edition of Cinema Effect. I'm Zach, and I'm joined by PTA's number one fanboy, Liam.
Hello.
Tried to shorten it. And my fellow Hans Zimmer appreciator, Jaden.
How's it going?
I'm good, thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Cinema Effect, the podcast where we review and talk about a different movie every single week. The show posts every Monday. You can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. So please subscribe and all those things. Leave us a rating. We'd appreciate it. And, something that I always say every week, I kind of just reel off in this list of bullshit I say at the start every week. But I want to emphasize it. I want to pay attention to it a little bit this week. Remember, please, you can submit any questions to the show at all. Okay, I know we do the question of the week, which is fun, but I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just reminding you. Maybe you forgot. Maybe you didn't realize we do this. Feel free to submit any questions or thoughts on anything happening, any movie you watched. I really don't give a shit what you're writing about, and we'll always read it at the end of the show in the YouTube comment section. But we, of course, always do, as I mentioned, the specific question prompt of the week. And this week, we'll talk about the results, I think, later on for for our question last week. But this week, the question will be, we'll read out next week, what your favourite soundtrack or score in a movie is. So what movie has your favourite music in it? I think that's a pretty universal question. And yeah, so that's the question. Feel free to submit that in the YouTube comments and we'll go through those at the end of next week's show. So thanks in advance. This week we're doing The Matrix Reloaded. We're continuing our little franchise run through of The Matrix after we did the first one at the end of April. I was about to say May, dude. Who knows what month it is? Anyway, let's do the data dump and get talking about this thing. The Matrix Reloaded is, of course, the second Matrix film. It opened in the US on the 15th of May 2003. It was written and directed by Lana and Lily Wachowski once again. It stars Keanu Reeves, Carrie-Anne Moss, Lawrence Fishburne, and Hugo Weaving. The film had an estimated budget of $150 million, but only estimated because it was shot at the same time as the third film, Matrix Revolutions, which we'll do next month. Who knows for sure exactly what this certain specific film cost to make. It had a worldwide box office of $742 million. The genre is action sci-fi. It had a runtime of 2 hours and 18 minutes, and boy, you felt it. The synopsis was, Neo and his allies race against time before the machines discover the city of Zion and destroy it. While seeking the truth about the Matrix, Neo must save Trinity from a dark fate within his dreams. I'm so excited for this, dude. All right, let's talk about The Matrix Reloaded. Janet, let's do it. What did you think about it?
Oh, man. Beyond average, I guess. I think it fails like in pretty much every part that the original succeeds. But it's still, I think it does well enough in the end. It introduces enough elements and it kind of grounds itself enough to still be of some redemption. So not completely horrible, but definitely not fantastic.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty bad, but I don't know how bad I would say it is. I mean, there are some parts which you can kind of enjoy in a dumb fun kind of way if you're along for the ride. Like, kind of, it has some of the same aspects of the first one in terms of just the tone, but it's very that is very turned down in this, and there's a lot of stupid stuff in here, and the movie obviously has a lot of flaws, but yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
Both of what you said really, really resonates with me because you said it was beyond average, Jane, and I agree with you. And I think it's somehow it's so average that I really can't say it's terrible. I don't think it's terrible. It's not even really bad. It's just so underwhelming in every way, and there are definitely bad moments and bad elements for sure. I didn't walk away from it thinking that was a terrible movie, that was a really bad movie, but I certainly didn't think it was good in any respect. And definitely not a worthy follow-up to The Matrix at all. So that was really disappointing for me. I honestly didn't even find. You mentioned how there were kind of just silly aspects you can just kind of enjoy without thinking. I honestly didn't even really find that about this movie. Um, I guess on paper you'd think those would be action sequences and set pieces. They okay, cool. I can just enjoy Keanu Reeves punching people, and of course there's the quite iconic highway chase in this movie. And even I've heard people talk that chase up for so long, and I've seen it before, and I'd completely really forgotten it, and I watched it again, and I think the chase just isn't very good. It's way too long. Um, and I think that goes for all the action moments in this movie where they're not even enjoyable because of that. They introduce nothing really interesting. They don't really build on the first film's really great action set pieces at all. And they just try and give us more of a just definitely not of a superior quality in that regard. But so you guys hadn't seen the movie before. Did you kind of have any expectations going in? Had you heard of its reputation or anything like that?
I'd seen parts of it before at some point, but
Okay.
yeah, I don't know. It kind of has a weird reputation. Like, it's not completely thought of as terrible, but there are some people that obviously really like it still, or just like it at least. But yeah, I don't know. What you were saying about the action scenes, though, was like, yeah, they were very like. The problem was they were just very repetitive, and yeah, they were very long as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, what about you, June?
I went into this film thinking it was going to be pretty good because, I mean, on IMDb it says at 7.2 and it has a Metacritic of, 60 odd. So, looking at those scores, you kind of expect a decent movie at least. But, I mean, what I found, it definitely, I definitely don't think it deserves those scores.
I mean, the craziest like stat for me is the fact that if I remember correctly, when we did the Matrix a month ago, I said the runtime was 2 hours and 12 minutes. This movie's only 6 minutes longer, and it feels 40 minutes longer. It just does not have nearly as good pacing as the first movie, and I think the first movie naturally kind of what's built into this franchise and into the first film, obviously, is a lot of the philosophical concepts that we discussed last time. And they continue to try to do that this time. Like every character can't still talking about control. But in last time in the Matrix discussion, we talked about how much we enjoyed the red pill, blue pill dynamic. What was the dude's name? Cypher, and his decision to just the ignorance is bliss conversation that you mentioned last time, Jane, and all that stuff's really good. How those ideas are all explored through the characters, through their choices. And the same can be said for Neo, obviously being the one in his journey in that movie. And this movie, at least in my eyes, just it's like, it's crazy that it's obviously the same writers and directors, but it's like someone watched The Matrix and then who didn't make it at all, and then thought they understood it, and then tried to make a sequel, and it just falls flat in so many regards because this movie's plot is just generic scenes, generic conversations where the characters then have to go and chase someone else or something else or another MacGuffin or whatever. And in the process of doing so, there's super long action set pieces and super long conversations that are meant to be intriguing, that are meant to be like, oh, that's quite deep, but it's really not. And it's just dull and boring. And I don't know, like, how many because Keanu Reeves has about, I don't know, it feels like 10 conversations about control and, the greater world and all this shit, this philosophical stuff that on paper is interesting, but it didn't work for me in the movie. So I guess, did the philosophical stuff in that regard fall flat for you guys? Yeah, how about you, Fitzy? Because I know you like this stuff.
Yeah, kinda. It kind of felt like this time they were just bringing the philosophical aspects to fill in the screen time. Kind of like they had nothing not concrete, but no kind of they the ideas were very like disjointed, I guess, and they kept like repeating the same kind of things about control and such, and it's like it just wasn't as good as how it was executed in the first, as you said, because that was done like so well through the characters, and that's the same thing isn't here. So yeah.
Do you feel that these constant conversations about control that the characters have, do you feel that they develop in any meaningful way in the movie? Because I don't really see it.
Yeah, I guess that's the problem. Yeah, not really.
I guess it just, it's just like the most generic plot of a film ever, with characters that are still, I still like the characters naturally from the first one, so that's definitely a plus. But Lawrence Fishburne's still great. Morpheus is great, and I still like Neo too. But anyway, so you got this generic ass plot, like you said, just filled in with just these oddly placed philosophical conversations that feel like anyone could be having these conversations. Like it feels like it's just dialogue that was just taken from like a lunchtime chat. Anyone could be talking. It's weird how control works. Did I choose to do this? It's like, but what's that got to do with anything that's happening right now?
Yeah, I mean, it could, I guess, come back to that. The architect thing. How he's part.
Yeah.
That kind of works a bit. How he's supposed to be the rebellion, like the rebellion is part of the system, kind of. That's kind of interesting, but yeah, it doesn't work as a whole for me.
No, yeah. How about you, Jaden? Have you got anything to say about that side of the movie?
Not really. The only time that I thought it was engaging in any way was at the end when Neo actually does converse with the architect. Because that's the only time it felt like we actually got something more than just repetition, and actually, he explains a bit more regarding, the origins of the Matrix and how that stuff works. So it's kind of in context with the story, and how he explains control within the story is kind of why it makes that seem better. But, thematically throughout the film, everything else just falls flat.
Yeah, it really does. I think the architect scene is interesting. It's a cool scene. I like, just the way it looks visually with all the TV monitors around and everything, and you've got all the different variations of Neo and the choices and how it all comes down to choice. I like all that stuff on paper. It's just everything before it, it's not earned, when you get to it, and then everything after it especially is like the third act of it, like the last 15 minutes, I guess, I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes of this movie is just it's something. It's just, I don't know, it's just trash, honestly. The fact that they had the balls to to put up the text "to be concluded," like you're meant to be so hyped now, like holy shit, what's going to happen next?
Wait,
like holy crap!
Didn't it say "to be continued"? No.
I thought it said "to be concluded." Am I wrong?
Yeah, it was concluded. I think.
No, shows how much attention I paid.
I just remember seeing it and thinking, "Oh, it's weird. It's not continued." That's how I remembered it. But anyway, yeah. But you know what I mean? Where it's like, why should I be excited about this next movie at all? It left me with no like, we're going to watch the third one, and I'm interested in where it goes because I've never seen it, got no idea. But I mean, I don't really care to.
Yeah, I mean, it made me interested in the third one, but like frustrated with this one. Like, yeah. I mean, obviously, but yeah, it's just the ending is just so weak. Like, it just. I don't know, it just like pans to this guy, there's a traitor, and it's like, oh wow, he's a traitor, like, dude, you showed him with a freaking knife before, like, is this supposed to be a reveal or something? It's like, to be concluded playing the freaking, the rebel music at the end, it's like, oh my god, you're fucking kidding me.
That is so accurate, what you just said. I remember when I watched the movie for the first time, I was probably 12, I guess, 11 or maybe or something, and I was so confused by that ending, and specific. I mean, I definitely didn't understand any of the architect stuff then, but I'm mainly just talking about the last, the panning moment. You're talking about panning to Agent Smith now in this new body out in the outside world.
Oh, is that what it is? I didn't even know that. Gee.
Isn't it, Jane? Is that what it is?
It is. Because like at the beginning of like the film, he enters that dude's body and then he gets called out, or whatever. And he spends the film like in the Zion sequences where Keanu's there. He's trying to kill Keanu, but nothing happens, and then he comes back up at the end all of a sudden.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all, Fitz, if you're not getting it. It's just like it's so awfully executed, and I was confused by it when I watched it the first time. I didn't even know who that was. Probably short-term memory loss when you're younger, but so I figured, this time, it's cool. I'm going to understand the ending. Cool. The ending's just so weird. It's like you said, Jaden. It's something that happened in a 30-second, little scene earlier in the movie where Agent Smith goes into the outside world in this new person's body, and then, like you said, Fitzy, then we see in the first act of the movie this guy walking around Zion, with a knife, and he's like trying to shank people. I'm like, okay, cool. And then we never see him again, and the final shot of the movie is literally, he exists. Remember? How is that? How is that remotely an interesting narrative beat to end your story on?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, it's like they're trying to paint it as some big reveal or something, but it's like, dude, it's not, So it's just, But I mean, I think probably one of the biggest problems with this movie is that kind of, I mean, in the first one, Neo's kind of completed his arc, and here he doesn't have as as much to do or to go as tried to break him down a bit in this one, tried to like place more doubt in his mind, or like make him actually worry that he's like kind of part of the system and doesn't have control. But it kind of just feels like they don't explore that as much. You just kind of like along for the ride in this one. So yeah,
it feels like that the intention anyway was for that doubt, for what you're talking about. I feel like it kind of was explored in the movie via his concern over Trinity and his dreams about her dying constantly, and he's shitting himself about that.
Yeah.
I think that's their attempt to do it, but I agree 100%. It doesn't really, it's not nearly as strong as it could be in that scenario that you presented. I think, what you said sounds more interesting to me for sure. How many just bizarre moments does this movie have? Because it has a lot to me anyway.
Oh, I mean, I love the cake orgasm Matrix, scene. That's
no. Did you say you love it?
I'm joking. It's terrible.
Good.
But
thank you. I was worried for a second.
But that's one of the instances where it's like, they're trying to. I don't know what they're trying to do. They're trying to,
They're trying to make a music video.
They're trying to have some conversation about control again, but it's like, it's such a silly moment, and it's kind of like this French character feels like kind of inconsequential. So, I mean, he's kind of important to the plot, but I don't know. It's just kind of everything in that scene kind of just comes off as silly, really. But, yeah.
Wait, hang on. Sorry, which scene are you talking about?
They're talking to the French dude, and he like talks about how he programmed the cake, and the woman has a
right
weird, Matrix orgasm.
So I was okay. Sorry. So I actually thought you were talking about a different scene, but the scene you're talking about is also awful. You're absolutely right. I thought you were talking about the music video scene. The one where they're just like they're just dancing, and everyone's holding each other, and we're cutting back and forth between Trinity and Neo, and this tribal dance. That was absolutely atrocious. What are they even trying to convey there?
That was one of the things I wanted to bring up as well, because that's one of the things that I thought was like really horrible at the film. It was just the most pointless and weird scene. But then I saw other people praising it, saying that the Wachowskis demonstrating what they're fighting for. It's a good symbol of
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm like it's not. It's just a weird thing. I mean, you can show you're fighting for humanity in so many better ways than having this horned up rave orgy, whatever it is. And it's just like it's just weird, and the way it's intercut as well, like you were saying, it's not. Yeah.
No, it was atrocious, and I mean this statement applies to literally everything in the movie. It went way too long. Like it after it had gone for about a minute, I was thinking this is really funny, but it'll end soon, and then it went for another 2 minutes. All right.
The entirety of Zion was kind of like that, where you like I think when we watched Matrix, you were saying that Zion was meant to be more of a MacGuffin, and like now watching this, I feel like that should be its place. Just something in the first film. Because when I first watched it, I thought Zion would be a cool, story element for the next ones. But I think it's the worst parts still, even though the Matrix parts aren't fantastic. It's the most it's just dull and it's way too long, like you said.
Yeah, for the introduction of this last remaining human city that we only heard about, and like you said, does essentially act as MacGuffin in the first movie. It sucks. I hate Zion. I hate everything about it. I hate the way it looks. It's not visually appealing at all. It's not like, oh wow, this is like a cool last standing, like cool cyberpunk kind of aesthetic to it. It's got none of that. I hate the costume design of everyone there, which I know is kind of a weird thing, but it's just the way that it totally contrasts with the Matrix, with the outfits that are in the Matrix, which are so cool. It bothers me. Not that they have to wear the same shit in the real world, but it annoys me how I don't know if you get what I'm saying, but I'm kind of ranting. But like when they're in that tribal what do you call it, the rave scene or whatever, and they're all wearing these really bizarre I don't know, I guess it's kind of tribal costumes or whatever, or outfits. And then when they're in the ships, they're wearing really worn, just generic clothes and shirts and things. But then when they're in the Matrix, they're wearing these raincoats and things. It's just none of it works for me at all. It doesn't create a cohesive kind of feel to this world for me anyway. I think it's cool that they go for a different aesthetic tone to the outside world. I just don't like the one we got.
Yeah, it's a weird choice.
And all the scenes in Zion, like you said, Jane, they're by far the worst. Like we get the little kind of, I guess, political interactions with the council members, and they have their little council meeting. And we get this captain character. God who knows, I don't know what his name is, and he talks to the other leaders of Zion numerous times, and because he doesn't like Morpheus, and I'm like, okay, cool. But all the dialogue, especially in that council scene, it's just super generic. I feel like I'd expect this in like a Star Trek episode from the 1960s.
Well, that's the Matrix Reloaded.
Let's wrap it up. I guess let's say something we like about the movie. Let's mix it up. I like all the characters, and I think the performances at their core are still solid. I mentioned Lawrence Fishburne. Carrie-Anne Moss is still as good as she was in the first one. I think Keanu Reeves is still Keanu Reeves, and that's great. And I still like the central characters involved.
Hugo Weaving's role was, Agent Smith was nothing in this film compared to what he was in the previous one. He was
Definitely
not intimidating at all. He was not he was not interesting, or he was not a worthy villain at all. They tried to make it interesting with his whole take over people and get to the real world thing, but even that just didn't succeed. And then that massive brawl between him and Neo,
it sucks.
It's really terrible. And I think part of it also comes because Neo is godlike now. The entire film is just Deus Ex Neo. Save this, do this, fly away, go here.
Yeah.
So it removes so much tension that's needed, and also it's like when you're removing that sense of tension, like that sense of danger, and you're also your antagonist is a lot worse. It just takes away so much from the film.
Absolutely. And the whole thing with him now being able to duplicate himself, it's just like, okay, it's just gimmicky. It feels like a sequel to a video game where the enemy, the final boss comes back and he's got some stupid new power. Like, okay, how does this serve the story at all, except to get the really bad, like you mentioned, that action set piece where Keanu Reeves spends 15 minutes fighting off 10 quintillion Agent Smiths, and it looks terrible.
Sounds terrible.
Sounds terrible, yes.
You could hear the bowling pin effect and shit, right?
Oh, I wrote a note about that. That was awful. Oh my god. I literally wrote down bowling pin noise. What the hell?
I just read as well that there was 4 shots in that sequence that were completely animated, where no actors were used as well.
Yeah,
it's they lean too heavily into CGI in this one. I feel. The first one obviously had tons of it, but this one I feel like they overuse it, and it doesn't even look good. For something
it looks terrible.
Something 4 years later, you'd expect some kind of improvement, or at least on par. But that scene of at the start where Carrie almost falls out the building, you've got the glass around it, that looks horrid, and so much throughout the film is just hard to look at.
I'm glad you mentioned the animations of the Agent Smith character and all his copies, because when Keanu Reeves was fighting like 10 of them, I'm like, oh, okay, this is fine. And then it went on for another 10 minutes and they ended up being like hundreds of Hugo Weavings, and they're animated awfully. And I mean, maybe they look good at the time, but the physics on them is terrible. They're getting flung in the air and falling on the ground, and they don't even move like people. And if you actually concentrate on their faces, they don't even look, they don't look real at all. They're just CG.
Some of them were just body doubles with Hugo's face superimposed on him.
Yeah, you can tell. Yeah.
But, when they all started busting out, that was when that was CGI hell.
Wait, sorry. So I mentioned a positive, and then we went straight back into the negative. You guys got a positive.
Sorry, because you mentioned the characters, and I just feel like I had to shove that, the actors. I had to. Sorry.
No, definitely, yeah.
I think a positive does come. I think they keep the fights a bit fresh. It's not exactly great, but because they kind of add that they kind of add a bit of swordplay in there, and it's a bit of a change from the guns and the fist and the hand to hand from the first one. So that was kind of interesting to watch for a bit, but then it got really tired real quickly. But
yeah, I do think some of the fighting is good. It's mostly just really repetitive, and the fight scenes are just way too long. But yeah, I don't know, the fights with the Ghost Brothers are kind of interesting.
It's a good
call for some points, and the soundtrack is still there in parts, but it's it just feels kind of toned down in this movie.
I honestly didn't realize any music until the end when they started just blasting Rage Against.
Right. Yeah.
The action scenes are too long to even successfully integrate music, I feel.
But yeah, it still has the lingering, the shadow of the tone of the first one. Kind of, you can still kind of, it's there a little bit, but just not enough.
Yeah.
But the characters, even though the French guy and the ghost, they kind of seem goofy. They kind of they add to the world. Even the architect and the key dude. So it's kind of it's kind of cool how same way the prequels kind of expanded it, learning about all these different new things, expanding the world and stuff. That was cool, just not executed the best, but yeah. There are still things to enjoy, I think.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the transparent dudes, because when they turned up the first time, halfway through, I was like, I think the first few moments they had with Keanu Reeves where they start going invisible and they go through the floor, I'm like, oh, this shit's dumb. But when we actually got out on the highway and they were doing shit, they were kind of using that power to transport into different people's cars, and I actually thought it worked really well, and it was one of the few interesting injections, I guess, into the action moments that, the movie kind of needed.
Yeah, then you still had the threat of the agents, which was just it didn't really mean anything in this movie, because the agents weren't really powerful at all compared to Neo in this movie, and you don't even want to really focus on their story because you're the main people that Neo are fighting are these other dudes,
Yeah.
And then you also got Smith, who he just randomly decides to appear sometimes. But,
I guess you're meant to feel, I'm spitballing, but at the ending, you're meant to be like, oh shit, the agents, man, they're infiltrating them. But it's
But Smith isn't an agent anymore, which is kind of weird. He's free.
I mean, yeah. So, yeah, you're right. In that way, by definition, he's not an agent. But I mean, I think it's fine to still call him an agent. But you're right. Yeah, he's not tied to the system or whatever. Did he? He has a few lines about why that is, but do you guys remember?
No, he's just making it up. He says
Bit of bullshit.
he's like, oh, I don't know what happened when I saw you do the thing, but I realized I didn't have to, I realized I didn't have to be tied down, and I could just reject it, and
Why don't we talk about the highway sequence then? Have you guys? Am I in my own little kind of world or echo chamber? But have you guys heard good things about this sequence over time?
I've never even heard it mentioned before about it being bad or average. I've never even.
Okay. Yeah, in my experience, it's kind of something that people use to say, "Oh, but remember, Reloaded has that highway sequence." Had you heard of it, Fitzy?
A little, yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and I just don't understand that argument at all because
I mean,
it's got cool bits, but it's not really good overall.
Yeah, it's one of the more memorable scenes, though.
Oh, definitely, but yeah, it is. But I feel like that's only compared to. I mean, it's visually different to the rest of the movie. I feel like in this movie, there's no way that it couldn't be memorable because, like, really, what else memorable happens?
I didn't like the sequence because it didn't. Because it didn't feel like it took place in the Matrix because it didn't have that same green. It didn't have that same aesthetic. It felt too.
Right.
It felt too open air and too. It felt too real. Obviously, you have people flying around and shit, so it's not in the real world. But like in terms of, like, aesthetically, like you're out of that. You're out of the grunge of the city, and you don't have that same green tint. And it feels like an in between scene, and like that's why it's forgettable for me. Like it's just odd, and there's nothing really to go for it. I mean, yeah, a little bit of cool set pieces. I mean, they actually constructed a 1.4 mile highway. I was reading, but still,
that's nuts. Seeing the end result, you kind of have to ask, was it worth it?
Wait, why were the brothers chasing him in the first place, though?
Because they worked for the French dude and they were going after the keymaker, I guess.
Yeah, but like, why did the keymaker want the French? Why did the French dude want the keymaker?
I think they wanted to kill him, wasn't it? Because of what he could have told Keanu and shit.
What could he have told them?
Well, he's the one that tells them about the building, about the architect. He's the one that reveals the end plan.
Oh, that's true. But then why do they care? Why does the French dude care?
I guess because he's a programmer as well, and he wants.
Oh, sure. Yeah, fair enough.
Everything.
Yeah. That makes sense. In regards to the highway scene, I will say that we mentioned the transparent twin dudes. They were cool. I like them. There's the 1 30-second bit where Morpheus leads the two dudes in the car up, kind of up the exit or whatever, and he's waiting for them with a sword. He rolls, takes out the tires with the sword, and then as it's flipping over, shoots the I don't know what you call it, the fuel tank of the car, and it explodes. That was rad. I love that. And that would have been a great way to finish the set piece, but then it continued to go on for another 15 minutes. So I thought that was a dope moment, though.
Yeah, that was good.
Speaking about explosions, I don't really have a problem with that one, but the one at the start and then at the end of the film of Carrie-Anne Moss's motorbike is completely unrealistic. You do not get that size of explosion, or really any explosion at all, from a motorbike hitting a little building.
It's true.
I mean, like Mythbusters, I remember they did an episode about car explosions in films, and you don't get any kind of explosion if you drive a car off a cliff unless they strapped the fuel tank to the front of the car, so it was the first moment of impact, and then there was a little bit. But I mean, so I mean, it really is an issue with all film explosions, yes, but that one at the start as well. I don't know why, but that one was of particular annoyance to me.
Yeah, along the same lines, that they again in this film try to step up the 360 slow-mo shots from the first one. I mean, which were awesome in the first one, but and we get one of those to kind of end the highway sequence where you kind of get the 360 on top of the truck as it's exploding, and Keanu flies in and grabs Carrie-Anne Moss, I think, was it? Or was it Morpheus? I don't know. Grab them.
Morpheus, yeah. Morpheus and the keymaker.
Morpheus. Yeah, that's right. That's cool. And yeah, it just looked really bad. Yeah, I think so. I just thought it was kind of animated really badly. The explosion, I was like,
yeah.
It's just, I guess. I mean, it didn't look like horrific. All I'm saying is that it took me out of the movie because it was distracting enough, and knowing how impressive those shots were in the first one and see them clearly try, like, okay, well, let's up ourselves, let's do it better this time, and they just kind of failed in that regard, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they were definitely, like, more this time, but yeah, they were no better than the first one, or worse than the first one.
Yeah.
I didn't mind that one too much, but yeah, there's, like, plenty of Morpheus just, like, doing the same kind of thing that Carrie Ann or Morpheus did in the first one, but just not as cool, not as cool, bro. But yeah.
I will say, I think overall this script's awful, but I will say I do like the scene leading into the third act where Morpheus is kind of in the hotel room, chatting up the team, and he's kind of giving his pep talk. I like that a lot, and I like generally how Morpheus is used as a character. How everyone else in Zion kind of thinks he's a bit crazy, because he's so devoted to this prophecy of the One. He believes it so much, and then I like how Keanu Reeves kind of tells him, "Yeah, the prophecy's bullshit, bro," and then how that really challenges him. No, I like Morpheus in this movie and the way he's used in the story, I think.
I think he's the only character that I actually genuinely liked, like without taking any issue with. I think the rest of them all, in some way or another, they fall flat or they have something about them that's, questionable. But Morpheus, in his motivation and the way he's acted, and the way that Fishburne acts, I think he was the best character in the film.
What is the prophecy there? Do you guys know?
That the One will be the one to save Zion, I guess.
Is that it? Oh, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, it's I thought that's what it was, take down the Matrix and free the humans.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, the end of this movie is so anticlimactic that it doesn't really provide any answer to that. We'll have to watch the next one to find out, I guess. So.
I mean, I'm pretty sure. I was going to say something, but like the fact that we've got a number 4 coming out, next year or whatever it is. I mean, it kind of nullifies anything that happens in number 3 that might be, kind of like on the edge or anything. I guess it's our own fault for waiting so long and like to view it. But, the fact that number 4 kind of makes events that happen in these earlier ones. It loses a bit of tension in terms of like, if a character, is a character going to die here or is it something like that? It's not going to happen because, he's obviously going to appear in number 4.
Yeah, the fact that there's a 4th one, it kind of makes me think, like, what are they going to do with Revolutions? Like, because if they fix everything, like, how's that going to work? I don't know.
We'll see. I guess we'll have a much better time, easier time of speculating next month on that one. What about the moment though, where right at the end of the movie, Keanu Reeves, I guess using similar powers that he does in the Matrix, stops the AI with his hands or with his mind, I guess.
Does he though? Because I thought that that the ship, like he thought that he was doing that, but it was actually like the ship that was coming sent out a one of those things that, like, what's it called? It turns off all the electromagnetic, stuff in a certain range. EMP.
Yeah. EMP,
no, but wouldn't that turn the ship off as well? So the fact that the ship's moving means the EMP doesn't move.
Either way, like if it is the way you're saying it is, Fitzy, then that's just weird. Then why would you have your protagonist like think he's doing something but he's not? That's kind of bizarre. I personally didn't get that at all from it, but if that is the case, I don't know. That sounds bad if that is the case, but it's even bad the way that I took it. I took it as somehow his powers are manifesting outside of the Matrix, and he's still having that level of control.
It's because he understands control now.
Oh, is that the idea?
I don't know. I was just saying something.
Like, somehow you just spitballed some bullshit, but it's probably what they were trying to get across.
Yeah.
It was just so bizarre for me. Because I feel like on paper, okay, this character, who has unlimited power inside of the Matrix now, demonstrates some of that outside in the real world. That sounds like it should be a huge plot point, huge story moment that you build to, and it just happened.
Well, maybe that is what Revolutions is about, the fact that it's a simulation within a simulation, and that maybe the fourth one is about actually breaking out of that simulation.
Oh, okay. But even still, then in that case, Keanu has to have some, I would assume, some awareness that he's in a simulation in the real world.
Once again, I was just joking, but I don't know, maybe.
Either way, I feel like it's hard to make excuses for that weird choice.
Last time you mentioned that you felt that that 2 and 3 were a bit of a cash grab because they were produced 4 years later, and I was saying it kind of because you were saying that the first one kind of wraps up the story well, but I felt like it left space to lead into sequels. But I was reading that production on these ones actually started pretty much immediately. Like they started in 2000, so I guess that kind of means it.
Really?
Yeah. But I don't know whether that adds to the fact that they were a cash grab, the fact that it just went straight from one to the other, or maybe this was actually a plan all along. But
Yeah, I mean, I think you have a pretty good. I don't know about the third one, but like in terms of the story, this could actually be a really great movie if it was just executed really well. But like the first one is self-contained, but it feels like the Wachowskis like wanted this to happen in a way. I don't know, it just kind of feels like that. Like before The Matrix.
I feel like the decision to shoot these movies at the same time, I presume then they were also written at the same time, the two sequels, that is. I feel like that was a terrible decision, whoever made it. And I think I can pretty confidently say that, only having seen the first one, because I assume they're so focused because when they're creating this, they're on set with the crew shooting the entire two sequels at once. You're, in that way, only seeing the whole story that you're trying to tell across the two movies. You know what I mean? So then when you just come out with one movie with the first part, and it is what it is, what that we've seen, it's just the story has lost all its focus. I don't even know. Like I mentioned, like the cliffhanger is just terrible. I don't even know why I should be excited, but I don't even know what story they were trying to tell in this movie. It feels like, it feels like a really bad first act to a movie, and I can't help but think maybe the decision to shoot both at the same time and work on them simultaneously kind of contributed to that.
Yeah, I thought it might be a case of they shot it thinking it was going to be one, and then they had to split it because of timing. Like Kill Bill and Nymphomaniac. In terms of like just
right.
But no, it was shot with this intent, and originally they were just going to release Revolutions like a few weeks after Reloaded, but then for some reason it got delayed, so it was a few months after. It just feels like it feels like you're making like a television type of event, this 2-part special type thing.
Yeah, feels like a part one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we went over the ending pretty well. It's real bad. The more I said at the start, I don't hate the movie, but the more, and I don't think it's terrible. But the more I kind of talk about it, I actually think maybe it is worse than I kind of said at the start.
Yeah, I don't know. I think like I could still watch it and kind of enjoy it.
I think I could watch it but not
Really?
enjoy it. I think I could just put it on and have it there.
Yeah.
Like
I think I have the physical ability to look at it.
Yeah, like I'll sit there, I'll stare at it. If I'm ever doing a rewatch, but like I don't think I can enjoy it.
You'll watch it, but you won't enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see myself ever watching this movie again. I mean, maybe I will, but I don't know why I would. I mean, actually, to be fair, I mean, maybe if Revolutions is at least okay, then maybe that could elevate this movie in some way for me. Maybe, who knows?
The thing, but knowing that Revolutions has a lower reputation than Reloaded, it makes me even more. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I think. So that makes me even more worried about like what's going to happen with the series. And it makes me. It also like makes me wonder like why produce a sequel 20 odd years later. I can't see how it's going to field well. I mean, obviously there's all the chance in the world that it will do well, but I feel like it's just going to be another type of trying to reboot a classic and it's going to fall short.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to speak too much on this until I've seen the third one, but my hopes for this Matrix 4 would be that, assuming the third one's, around this level, I would hope the fourth one. I don't expect it to be as good as the first one, but I'd hope it's at least better than these.
Oh, I really didn't like just the whole relationship between Trinity and Neo in this movie. Like I mentioned in the first one that was like one of my problems with the first one. It's just that relationship felt so forced, and this is basically the entire movie. You know, this relationship. You know, we even get like a 3-minute sex scene, which is fun, but you know, yeah, it's just it doesn't like why are they interested in each other? It just kind of they just are, you know. It kind of doesn't really do anything.
Definitely. I mean, I didn't mind them in the first movie, but it became kind of laughable for me in this one.
Well,
I also just need to quickly shout out the fact that so sorry if it's an intro,
sorry.
but we got the but there was the moment that Neo catches her, and it cuts to Link or whatever his name is, and he says, "Holy shit, he caught her!" It was so bad. What is this dialogue, dude? What is? Oh, anyway, I just had to say that. I thought it was hilarious.
Oh, and the you know, he reaches into the heart and starts pumping it. That was like, yeah, okay.
He holds a heart, yeah.
He holds a Matrix heart.
Yeah.
In the first one, it didn't like bother me that much, but like because it wasn't a big thing. But this is just like, you know, it's like the whole idea. So
Yeah, exactly. It really is the emotional core of the movie.
Yeah.
All right, I've neglected trivia for the time being, so I may as well just list it off. GM donated 300 cars for use in the production of the movie. All 300 were wrecked by the end. Wow, cool.
Where did they use 300 cars? I mean, like, obviously the highway scenes where they used the majority of them, but like 300?
And
really?
how did they wreck them all?
Yeah.
Even the trivia is underwhelming.
In trivia, I also saw that some consistency between this one and the last one was that this one was also plagued with injuries.
Yes, thank you. I got that right here. There were several injuries on the set. Carrie-Anne Moss broke her leg training for a wire stunt. Lawrence Fishburne fractured an arm in another training incident, and Hugo Weaving put out a disc in his neck while being pulled back on a wire. God, safe environments once again.
I wonder if they had the same issue on the Speed Racer set, because that was also directed by the Wachowskis. So I wonder if
was it really?
Yeah.
Speed Racer was. Holy shit. Yeah, man, all their characters pulled out discs while they were sitting in their seats in the car.
Yeah.
In the green screen. Final trivia that I'll go with. Wait. Oh, no, yeah, there's some trivia about the Smith clones and how they're all kind of CG and shit. We mentioned that earlier. They look real bad. But Sean Connery was originally picked to play the architect, but turned it down because he didn't understand the concept of the movie. Connery mentions this in an interview on the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen 2003 DVD. So, I mean, I don't blame you, Sean. I don't blame you.
I feel like the guy in this role almost like whether it was intentional or not, he feels like a Sean Connery type person.
He really does. That's so true.
Like I could like honestly, like if you had told me it was Sean Connery with a bit of makeup, I'd be like, oh yeah, sure.
Do we mentioned it briefly earlier. Is there anything more to say about the architect scene, do you think?
Not really. I mean, I think it was one of the better ones because of the introduction of this new character that's kind of, you know, he's kind of the all-seeing. I like the introduction, like the concept of like the ancient programs, you know, like the Oracle, like the Architect, and, you know, like those other ones we get. Like it is an interesting idea that, you know, you have these programs that do run the rest of them as well as the agents working alongside. But you know, like we've said previously, it wasn't executed the best.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I find the idea that there was like 6, you know, the ones before 5, 6, 5, the ones before Neo, interesting. But I mean, does it make any sense? Like, so as I understand it, what he said was like, each time there's a one, they try to save Zion, but then they destroy Zion, and then the one has to choose like 23 people to start Zion again, so that they can destroy it later or something. Because the one always like comes up as a natural like anomaly of the system. It's like, does that make sense? I don't know.
Maybe that just goes to further my simulation theory.
maybe.
Hmm.
Honestly, we'll know next month. I feel like that there's a good chance that's honestly what 4 is about. So
Yeah, maybe.
I think that'd be such a massive cop out if that actually is.
I agree 100%.
I mean, yeah.
You'd have to be really careful with how you tackle that to make it, because then, the obvious question is then, then they just did another one and another one, etc. So I feel like if you're wanting to deliver a satisfying narrative in a movie, you have to really be careful with how you do that. And based off this movie, I don't know if I have a lot of confidence.
I think in terms of like layering like simulations and realities, I think Inception does it well. I mean, and I think in the end, it kind of how it settles on, does it matter what's reality if you don't know? It kind of has that same concept, if you're happy, it doesn't matter. But
yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah,
I think it'd be interesting to see if. I mean, obviously, they might not go down the path, but if they do,
they need to do something like that. I think.
Speaking about Nolan, I saw that WB originally approached the Wachowskis to do Batman Begins, and
really,
I can't imagine that film. I mean, I feel like it'd be more akin to the Tim Burton ones, rather than having this grounded, gritty realism one. But God, I can't imagine the Wachowskis handling that character.
Yeah, I'm glad that didn't happen personally, for sure. You mentioned, Fitzy, how the stuff with there being, with Neo being the 6th one, and the system kind of there always being a one that pops up, and all this shit with the architect, how it's interesting on paper, and I agree it's interesting on paper, but it's just there is no. It is we're kind of going over worn ground, but it's just delivered so executed so poorly, where this dude is just reeling off the dialogue, like he's just telling you, like, and it's kind of hard to take in because he's just like spewing it at you. Oh, by the way, there are six ones, and this means that, and that's why the machines do this, and then they take this, and I'm like, all right,
yeah.
It's just like it feels like they thought of the idea they wanted to do something like this, and they're like, okay, just throw it in that scene, but it doesn't add anything to the narrative. Doesn't really feel satisfying for the viewer in any way to discover that.
Well, I liked how that scene kind of offered, this film's, red pill, blue pill moment, in the fact that do you save one person or do you save the entirety of humanity? I feel like, it's an easy choice, but obviously Neo makes the opposite one that I would. But, how would you guys go with that?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, didn't he say that she would die either way? Like, you couldn't save her? I don't know. Didn't he say, like, if you go through the left door, went through the left door, said you can't save her, but you can do something else?
Well, I think because the door he went through to be able to save her in the moment, but it was going to cause extinction anyway, I think. Is that right? Or
yeah, so if he chose the door he did, he'd save Trinity, but then, he'd have to start, it triggered that process of, having to start Zion over. But then had he chose the right door, Zion would be fine, but Trinity would be dead.
Right, okay. Well, I mean, to be honest, Jane, I completely forgot about the moment, and that is cool. I actually like that element. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
The French guy's wife is named Persephone, which is the I looked this up in the movie because I thought it would be like some reference, and it was the wife of Hades, which is like the god of the god of hell. So yeah, it's interesting.
Talking about her, like even that was like everything felt like so horned up in this film. I mean, like you've got like Trinity and Neo's relationship. You've got that rave scene. You've got the tension between Morpheus and Niobe, and you've also got her character and how you got the cake scene, but then you have her character where she patches Neo to give like him the information that he needs or whatever, and like it just feels like I don't know. It just feels like a lot of unnecessary Like, I don't know. It just feels weird in place. Because, I mean, like, the first film definitely doesn't... I'm not misremembering. Like, the first film doesn't have these tones at all, right?
No.
Yeah, so it feels weird to kind of shoehorn this in so, aggressively when the first one was, like, lacking it. Not lacking it, but, like, it didn't have it.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that the Wachowskis turned up to set every single day just super horny. And that just, like, totally influenced everything they did, apparently. So weird. You guys got anything else, or is that the perfect moment to end on the horniness of the movie?
I mean, I saw that the film is meant to take place in like 2699, something like that. So if you want to put like a rough date on the place,
Sure.
You've got that.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
I don't know his name, but so like the black character in this movie, the one the pilot.
Oh, Link, I think his name is. Yeah.
Link, yeah. Like he was just such a nothing character in this movie, and they spent so much time on him. Like,
oh yeah, his relationship as well.
Family and shit.
Yeah.
I was like, well, what? Like, okay.
We needed all that backstory for him to deliver his awful dialogue in the third act. I mean, I hope something happens with him in the third one. I assume something has to.
Probably.
For all that set up.
Yeah. There's probably there for some, death, some emotional effect. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like the fact that he so heavily promises, like, oh yeah, I'll be back, and like she gives him the bracelet or the necklace, whatever, like, whatever, and it's patting the dog, he's gonna die.
Matrix Reloaded out of 10. Fitzy, you go first.
I guess I'll give it a I don't know. What do you guys, Jaden?
5. That's it. I mean, like I said at the start, beyond average. But, and like you said, it's definitely not a bad movie, but it's just so average.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I was torn between a 5 or a 4, and I'm going to go 4 just because, I don't think it's quite like, horrific territory, but it's definitely the personification of not good. So I'll go 4.
Yeah, I was thinking 4 or 5, and then right at the second, I just remember that horrendous ending, so I'll give it a 4.
Sure, yeah. There you go. And how about we try this? So for the franchise stuff, we'll go through and we're reviewing all the Matrix films, obviously. Let's start out, not that I don't think this one will be hard, but let's start a little official Cinema Effect ranking of the Matrix movies. So we have to have a majority vote, the three of us, to be able to place a movie in, slotted in, I guess, in the rest of the rankings. All we've got right now is to compare it to the first one.
It's definitely better than the first one. I mean,
the first one was god awful. This one was acceptable, but the first one was just horrid.
Yeah.
Oh god. All right. So I don't even have to ask. We got a unanimous vote that this falls below The Matrix. So we'll see where Revolutions.
Did you not hear what we said?
Yeah. What?
I'm sorry. All right. Cool. So there we go. We're starting our little official ranking. Let's do news chat. We'll get on from Reloaded, I think. First of all, we've been talking about Tenet on the podcast last week. We'll talk about it a few times, but now we've got the confirmation this week. This feels like a trivia thing I would read when we do the Tenet episode of the show inevitably, but anyway, Nolan used an actual Boeing 747 in Tenet. I believe it must be in the trailer. I guess I still haven't seen the trailer. Jaden, can you confirm? Is it in the trailer?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, and because it's cheaper than VFX.
Yeah, they're having a look because they're originally going to construct a miniature, but even the miniature was going to cost more than buying an actual 747.
Yeah, it's so funny. I love it. All right, next up, we got Apple and Paramount. We talked about Scorsese's new film Killers of the Flower Moon a few weeks ago. We now have the confirmation that Apple and Paramount will both be helping old Scorsese get his ridiculous budget, and it'll be happening because Apple will be the one financing the film. But of course, Scorsese doesn't do straight to streaming films. He will only do films that release in cinemas, at least briefly. So Paramount will be distributing the film theatrically. And then, it'll go to Apple TV Plus then after that, I guess.
In addition to that, is the fact that Apple has creative control over what happens in the film is also interesting to me. Because, have you seen any of their products yet?
I've seen The Morning Show. I've watched all of that.
Right, and how that because I'm not sure how their products feel. So, does them having control of the project, does that bode well for you, or does it mean anything?
Well, I mean that show, it was their big launch show for their streaming service or whatever. So that show had a big quality feel to it. Definitely felt high budget, high production values. So, I mean, so obviously Scorsese, you're going to get that anyway wherever he goes. But so I mean, I guess that just if you need the reassurance of that, it guarantees that. Creatively, I don't know how much Apple itself or whoever heads to the film television stuff at Apple. I don't know how much they actually creatively got involved on that show, but the show was average. So from a story perspective, so I mean, maybe you should be worried, but I don't know. What does that actually mean though? Creative control on this project.
It means that if Scorsese does something they don't like, they have the ability to override it because they're giving him the money.
Yeah.
If he kills off a character, but they say no. Oh, I mean, obviously this is based on a true story, I think. So obviously, it's not going to happen like that. But if there's some detail that he wants to shove in that they don't approve of, they can get rid of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, on paper that sounds kind of problematic, but I don't think Scorsese would team up with anyone that he thinks would, in any way greatly disrupt his vision,
Yeah, like this is the case for just any production company, when they're shelling out massive amounts of money, they always want to have some say in the film. So no matter where you go, you're always going to have some influence from the studio. But I was just more questioning, how, if you knew, like, how do you reckon Apple would have major influences on, like, some stuff?
Do you guys know the Scorsese story with Taxi Driver?
No.
It's like an old Hollywood story, but like there's so basically Taxi Driver was going to get like an NC-17 rating or whatever the highest rating is in America, and it meant really bad things for the movie basically. And basically Scorsese had like a major episode where he was like threatening to kill himself and stuff, and
oh shit,
what he did was he slightly changed the red tint that's at the end of the movie. There's a kind of very violent sequence at the end of the movie, and he just changed the tint slightly, and then they changed it to R.
What's the difference between an R and an NC-17? Because I thought R was a 17 film, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think in the US, yeah, R isn't their top rating. I think.
Yeah.
Isn't there like
unrated as well? I'm not sure.
Yeah, there is. I don't know what it's called, but there is something like that.
Yeah, but they were threatening the worst kind of rating, whatever it was. But yeah, he's obviously a very auteur, non-studio kind of guy. Have all the control for himself. Well, with all these auteurs, they're obviously, that way.
Yeah. But I mean, can you say without spoilers or anything, why changing the tint lowered the rating?
I guess it just made it seem less violent. I guess
it would have made it seem more less like blood, wouldn't it? Isn't that the thing?
Yeah. It was something to do with that, but I don't know if it was even consciously they were like, oh yeah, this looks less like blood, less violent. Maybe they just it just had a different effect on them. I don't know. That's the story, at least.
How do you get a job in that? Working on a ratings approval board? Because I'd love that. Just sit there and watch films and just say, yeah, MA, bang, G.
Yes, tick the boxes. Yeah.
Yeah. Pizzazz. Easy.
No shit. I've actually before in the newspaper seen a an ad from the government for that kind of job, and it genuinely had no prerequisites.
Huh.
I assume you just have to, just show very strong general skills, I guess, in in the areas that are required, organisation, all that shit. But I'm just saying it didn't require degrees or anything. Obviously, I don't know what degree you'd have to have.
Right.
They'll probably just put you through a test to see how you feel about certain films, and if your rating would set is equivalent with what they dictate. So, and if that is, then they'll probably just slot you in.
Do you 8.5? No. Oh, come in.
No, I mean if how Netflix now gives self ratings in Australia because they don't have to go through like they don't have to go through the board anymore.
Really?
It's like,
no, I didn't.
yeah, because so like they had a 2-year trial where all their films that they had someone rate them, and then they matched it up with people from the board, and because they matched pretty much exactly, they're allowed to self-rate films. So I imagine it'd be a similar test, like a similar type of situation if you want to get into that like job. You just have to sit through a few films, give it a rating, and see if it like aligns with theirs.
I guess so. God, super on a side note, but that's just weird though. Like, I feel like that's not a great precedent to just allow them to rate their own movies. And then where does that go from there? Can everyone just eventually start rating their own movies?
It was about it was just about Netflix being able to roll out like their films all at the same time, because what would happen is they'd roll out a product in America. I don't know. We'll say this is prior to this, but we'll say they rolled out Irishman, and then take 3 weeks later for our board to process it and then be released here, and they'd lose massive amounts of profits because people would watch it online in that time. So that's the incentive for why they were granted this deal, to be able to self-rate, so they have the ability to just roll it all out at the same time.
Oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
This is kind of a tangent, but it's pretty funny how it's 2001: A Space Odyssey is G-rated, which is interesting.
Yeah, I saw that.
Actually, what do you think of that, Jaden? Because there's not like violence, but I mean, it's kind of some deep shit going on.
Yeah, but I mean, like, do you give a PG for like might give you an existential crisis? I mean, like, that's just G stuff, isn't it? I mean, like, because like there's nothing like ever explicit. I mean, like, other than like a monkey smashing some bones. I mean,
yeah.
I guess maybe if it was to be resubmitted, the board might say some pretty I could see like them like putting mild themes as like a label on it, but I think it's a bit of a stretch. I think it's fine with a G.
Yeah, I guess it's just weird seeing it as a G, because I don't know.
Well,
yeah, we associate that with like Postman Pat.
Yeah.
All right. Let me hit with you some rapid fire stories. All right. So Henry Cavill is reportedly back as Superman in some film. Apparently, it's not going to be a solo Superman movie, but he'll appear in some other DC film. Whether it's, I don't know, what do they got, like Black Adam and shit happening, and Aquaman 2 or whatever. So, I mean, cool, I guess. He's he's cool in the role. So, I mean, I don't really see why they'd need to recast him. So cool, all right. And we got Sonic the Hedgehog getting a sequel. We can all rejoice about that one.
Yeah. Nice.
We've also got so the fact that the discussion that's been taking place over the past few weeks on the show has been about Tenet and if it'll be able to release in time for theatres to reopen, and it being kind of the film to reopen theatres or whatever. So, but Jade mentioned to me last night that this new Russell Crowe film called Unhinged, slated, I think you said, for an early July release.
Yeah, I think July 1st might be its Australia release date.
Right. Okay. So then, again, all the redundant theatre conversations that we've had over the past few weeks notwithstanding rather, this would theoretically then be, the film to reopen theatres or whatever, the first big film to see. So,
it's 1st of July in Canada. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Is there a trailer for this?
Yeah, the synopsis is that a case of road rage turns into full-blown terror when an unstable driver follows a woman and her son. So, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it's going to be anything too noteworthy. Seems like Russell Crowe's going to go a bit crazy. I'm down for that.
Last story. We've got Edgar Wright's new film Last Night in Soho, continuing our little delay discussions, been pushed to an April 2021 date. Is there a trailer for this film, Jaden, that exists?
No. And,
do we know what I guess
we have nothing really apart from behind the scenes pictures. I'm pretty sure we do have a synopsis for it, but it's not anything major.
All right. That was our news chat. What have we been watching? I watched Bad Education, HBO movie, Foxtel in Australia movie, Hugh Jackman, based on a true story. Yeah, I really liked it. I think it's really cool. Going in, it's okay based on this true story about the education department in New York, and how the higher ups there basically just steal taxpayers' money. A bunch of embezzlement, a bunch of fraud. That's fun. So I was like, oh, okay, sure, whatever, Hugh Jackman. And I was actually shocked kind of especially by the ending and how, by what at the end of the day is a pretty simple story, how the film actually kind of left me on a really interesting note and provided some sort of character analysis for a real person. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I wasn't expecting that. So yeah, I recommend that movie. It was good. I've been watching more Black Sails. Dude, finished season 2 last night. God, this show is phenomenal. I can't believe that I haven't heard more people talk about this show. Like, people always talked about Game of Thrones back in the day. While it was on for years and everyone was raving about it, everyone loves Game of Thrones. And this show, in my mind, is at this point hard to say, only partially through it, but it's right up there with it. And I feel like not nearly as many people know it exists. So yeah, I feel like we got to get the word out there on Black Sails because I think it's awesome.
What is what's like the main stuff that happens in the show, like main characters and stuff?
So it's a Do you guys know the book Treasure Island? Because I've only ever heard of it, but I don't actually know it well at all. Yeah, so it's a prequel to that book apparently. So, and that's kind of an interesting perspective for me because there's 2 characters that just simply by existing in the universe I've heard of. So I know they survive. But then literally everyone else, and there's a shitload of characters, I've got no idea who's a character from the books, who's a new character, who was just created for this. So yeah, I don't know anything else. So yeah, no, but the show's awesome. So it's just kind of centers around kind of this, I guess, the events and the characters and everything taking place politically around this this island, Nassau, where all the pirates are hiding out in the 1700s, and just centers around all the what they're doing and all the different character conflicts and things. It's kind of like Game of Thrones in that way, where you've just got a bunch of these characters in this setting and they they just kind of go at each other and do their political awesome stuff. I guess that's it. If you've seen Game of Thrones, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah.
It's interesting that you say it's a prequel to Treasure Island because, I mean, like, and that's always been, I mean, like, I read that when I was like 13, so I always saw that as more of like, a young adult, like, kid type novel. So it's interesting that it has such a, such a graphic and gruesome prequel to it,
Yeah. Well, okay, so you've read Treasure Island. That's awesome. Okay. Like I said, I don't know where this show's going, so I presume, unless this ends up covering Treasure Island, I doubt it would, but I don't know. Yeah, interesting. So I guess it's got a really different tone to it because this show is definitely not young adult at all.
No, yeah, that's intrigues me a bit.
Yeah. Well, it intrigues me about reading the book when the show's done.
Yeah.
Sure. So that's cool. No, I'm really loving it. And I think I'm basically halfway through the entire series now. There's only it finished years ago, so yeah. Well, I say years ago, like 3 years ago. I'll update you on devs again. I have been watching it weekly, but I'll update you because this week the show is really pretty and it's doing interesting stuff, into the sci-fi and exploring interesting concepts. But I don't know where this story is going. The end of the episode I just watched kind of felt like an ending, but we're only 3 episodes in and there's 5 to go, so I'm just kind of confused. But yeah, I'll keep watching that, so that's cool. We'll see what Alex Garland brings us. What have you been watching, Jaden?
Not a massive week for me. I watched Insomnia, which is Chris Nolan's 3rd film. Which is, so I've now seen his entire filmography, which I'm pretty proud of. I think it was really good. I think it was really, I think it was one of his weaker episodes. It's still a good film though. And it's just interesting seeing the way that he uses Pacino and Williams and kind of especially Williams, because you know Robin Williams for his comedy stuff. So seeing him in this alternative role was really interesting and really really cool.
Yeah.
And there was some cool elements because because of the setting and the eternal daylight. It adds some really cool elements to the film. So Insomnia is something I definitely would recommend. It's based off a 1997, I think, Norwegian film. So it's not an original screenplay.
Ah, okay.
In fact, I think this is the only film that Nolan's directed that he had no say on the script in, actually.
Yeah.
I think you can feel that a bit in like terms of writing. I feel like it is a more straightforward story, so you can tell that Nolan hasn't touched it too much.
Mm.
And I also watched The King, which is David Michôd's new film on Netflix. I say new, but it was last year. That was also really good. I actually really enjoyed it. Michaud obviously directed Animal Kingdom, which I love, and I feel like you can kind of see some of the same. You can definitely tell. You can definitely see similarities in the products, although they're completely different. One set in the 1400s, one set in modern day. But the same way that it's dialogue heavy and this slow brooding atmosphere that just builds, and in moments of in climax or in moments of action, it's kind of over rather quickly, and then it goes back to that brooding atmosphere. It was really interesting to see a film like a film about the English invasion of France to be told in such a way is interesting, because usually it's like usually they're smacked in the face with battles and swords, but it was nice to see the way that this like slowly builds.
Yeah. I'm glad you like it because it's been on my radar. So I definitely want to check it out now. What about you, Fitzy?
So, okay. Piano teacher. It's about this piano teacher, and she has this really like repressed relationship with her mother. Like, she'll come home and her mother will like ask where she's been for the last couple of hours if she's like home late and stuff. So she's kind of the main character is kind of this uptight, like serious instructor, but she's also kind of childlike in the sense that she's very controlled and manipulated by her mother. And basically because of this, so she's a piano teacher and she has all these students, and because of the repression she has from her mother, she's like, she has all these sexual fantasies, basically all these like really bizarre sexual fantasies, and she basically falls in love with one of her students, and the student learns how basically fucked up she is, and it's an incredibly brutal movie, and really really deranged, but like this director Michael Haneke, like that's basically his whole thing is like extremely depressing, often like deranged material. Like The White Ribbon is kind of, I don't know, the apex example of that in a way. Kind of, but also Funny Games to a lesser extent. I've seen the US version of Funny Games, but
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a really interesting character study. It's a really kind of bitter film. It's I mean every his directing is beautiful, and his like cinematography is very unique to him, and beautiful as well. It kind of like it has this sense of like you're a fly on the wall. You're looking at this world kind of objectively. Like his films are kind of they're like the opposite of Nolan in a way. He like never uses non-diegetic music. Is that the right term? Or diegetic? Like he never puts music on top that isn't actually in the world's universe.
Yeah, that's weird.
And but it works so well in his films, because he just has this such a like a kind of cold and like clinical, kind of objective, kind of like, yeah, you're kind of just objectively viewing these characters in a way. It's strange, but no, yeah, Piano Teacher is a great movie. Yeah, very kind of depressing and interesting, and definitely a bit deranged. But like, there's a scene where you know you're following this teacher for like a good 15 minutes, and she's like always telling her students off for not doing the right techniques, and she's like, you know, getting the massive fights with her mother, but she's like the more submissive kind of one. And then she just walks into this pawn shop kind of thing with like an old video pawn shop, and like she walks into one of these rooms and starts viewing this these interesting videos, and there's like a bin of tissues in the corner, and she just starts smelling one of them, and
oh Jesus.
Yeah, I recommend it.
Well, you sold me on the movie right there.
But, no, it's a fantastic film. But yeah, that's The Piano Teacher. Yeah, and I rewatched two Coppola Brando films. I rewatched The Godfather Part 1, and like, yeah, I just started playing it. I didn't really expect to watch it all, but yeah, it's just such an easy film to watch. It was just such an easy film to watch, I guess. And I mean, Al Pacino was fantastic in the film, but like this time I really picked up on Brando's kind of his like playfulness in the role. Like, he's such a serious, like, you would think that the role is kind of the serious, you know, Don Godfather type thing, and you know, in the opening scene is like playing with his cat, and he's like kind of playing with the guy, and then he like looks out the window. It's just kind of interesting how much like subtlety Brando is able to put into that character, and I mean, the whole film is just constructed so well in so many in so many regards, in so many ways. Like, the only point where it slows down is kind of, you know, the Sicily stuff, if you know what I mean. But only slightly. But yeah. But
so you would say, yeah, it holds up well on rewatches?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Because that's where I'm at with it. Yeah, where yeah, kind of. I feel like I would enjoy it more rewatching it.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely did, I think, because you know what to expect, and then you kind of just, you know, you're able to eat it all up the second time. Yeah, I'm interested to see if the, you know, second one will hold up to rewatches as well. But I also rewatched Apocalypse Now again today, and well, the first time I watched it was on Netflix, and they had the Redux Apocalypse Now Redux version, which is 3 hours and 20 minutes long. But today I watched the theatrical cut, the original cut, which was 2 hours and 30 minutes. So they added a whole 50 minutes to the film, which, for the first time I watched it. And I don't know, it was still kind of the same experience, I guess. I might even prefer the Redux because there's more scenes with Brando at the end, and you know, the more Brando the better, I guess. But yeah, that's neither of you have seen that, right?
No. What'd you give it?
Oh, well, I give it 8 out of 10 the first time. I'm not sure what I give this time, and because it's a film which, it's like a huge spectacle. Yeah, just in terms of like the events and cinematography and like music and everything. But it's also like there's a lot to think about and chew on. And actually, last year in literature, we read the novel for which it's based on, Heart of Darkness, and so this is Apocalypse Now is kind of an adaptation of Heart of Darkness set in the in the Vietnam War instead of Africa, and like it kind of adds that extra appreciation for the film for me, but it's like Heart of Darkness is kind of about the horror of humanity and our like capacity for evil, and like Apocalypse Now is kind of the same, but it's more about the horrors of war. It's more like kind of myopic, like insular, and its kind of view. I mean, war is still kind of a huge subject, and it kind of covers the whole effects of war in like every single way,
Right.
But yeah, that was great too. Yeah, I kind of want to rewatch like On the Waterfront, or like watch what's it called, a streetcar named Desire, or something like that, because like in these films you get like just obviously amazing Brando performances. I mean, he's probably is the best actor of all time, and but like you get kind of like not enough of him. You get a bit of him, but he's kind of like, he's kind of held back a bit. I mean, in terms of like the amount of time he's on there. So I kind of just want to watch a thing with like he's like followed the whole time. But yeah, Apocalypse Now is great. That's what I watched this week. So yeah, that went on for too long. But yeah,
it's all right. Cool. I want to watch Apocalypse Now. All right.
You want to watch Apocalypse Now?
No, I don't want to watch Apocalypse Now.
Oh,
like now. No,
right.
Not now. Let's do our listener submitted comments for last week's question. Last week's question was, check out the Tenet trailer and tell us what you think. So let's see here. Oh, that's right. No one wrote in. I just want the audience to know that in that little space you just heard right there, I just cried for 2 minutes and I just edited it out. So, all right. But who did watch the trailer? Jaden watched the trailer. He didn't watch it last week. Jaden, tell us about the trailer. What did you think of it?
Yeah, it was pretty sick. That's all you get.
Awesome.
No, like it seems like classic Nolan, but on a much bigger scale. Because he kind of does seem to. I mean, like you're shown like a variety of different settings in the trailer alone, so it seems to like jump around a fair bit. Which is the opposite of Dunkirk, which is kind of all set on one beach. So it's interesting to see just a contrast in terms of that. But the trailer looks really fantastic. I mean, that opening shot alone, like it like the feeling that it instills. I don't know, because it's off the ocean. You're looking down like the fin of the boat or whatever, and like I don't know why, but it sets such a brilliant tone for the next two and a half odd minutes. And like what they give us it seems like quite a lot, but it still doesn't seem like enough, because you're kind of introduced to the concept of time and how and how Nolan's going to mess with it in this film, but it's so brief and so ambiguous that you still don't really know anything. And throughout the week, I saw that John David Washington, he was saying that he had to ask Nolan so many questions about the story because he was so confused as well when making it. So I'm really keen for that. I think the trailer does a fantastic job of being a tester of what is to come. I mean, and Fitzy last week was talking about, was it the orchestra scene? Were you talking about that, Fitzy?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that seems really, really brilliant. I definitely get what you mean by drawing comparisons between that and the NRL game, NFL game in The Dark Knight Rises.
Awesome.
I'm not sure if the music in the trailer was composed for the film or if they're just like sampling stuff from other trailers, but that still does seem sick. And I'm really keen to see Van Hoytema as the DP again, because he's worked on Nolan for the past few films. Because I think Wally Pfister was his DP for a long time, but then Pfister kind of pissed off, and Van Hoytema has now Van Hoyter or Hoytema, I can't remember. But he's I think he's taken over from Interstellar onwards, I think.
Cool.
So I'm keen to see his what he's got as well, because like I was saying, like last time with the innovations that Nolan has with his films, so much of it is to do with his cameras and the way he uses them and what he uses. And Hoyt, he's a big part of that process.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I've been hearing stuff too about how the actors have been confused about the movie, but I'd be, I might be talking out of my ass, I might be wrong, but I'd be very surprised come the movie's release if it's that confusing for us. Because, I mean, if you think about it, right, like, for Inception, if you're just on set every day, if you're one of the actors and okay, you got your bit of the script and you've got this scene and you're doing this scene, the whole picture would probably be super confusing to you in that movie too, I would have thought,
Yeah, but I mean, in saying that, Inception is still viewed widely known as to be like super confusing.
Oh, sure, but no, you're right about that. But I just mean I don't see it being any more confusing than that.
Right. Well, I mean, from the trailer, like the way they explain time in the trailer, and because like it's not time travel, like Nolan has said that himself, and even in the trailer says no, it's not exactly time travel. But, like the way you kind of reverse and manipulate it is like that seems like it's going to be, I don't know, a bit difficult to wrap your head around at first, at least, or maybe the entire film, because like the dynamic it introduces in like. Because even like some of the action sequences, like in the trailer, you see like a little highway thing where like one of the cars flips, but then like it's not flipping, it's readjusting itself and it drives normally. But if if that sequence is undoing itself, then what's the implication on the actual sequence in there? Like I don't know. It's
right.
I don't know.
See, I didn't even know that about the movie. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it probably has a potentially a little more confusing than Inception, at least. But yeah.
Especially due to the scale. I mean, if we do have that reported runtime with the intermission, and he does have that much time to play around with it.
All right. Thanks everyone for tuning into this episode of Cinema Effect. Appreciate your time as always. Yeah, Fitzy, what are we watching next week?
We are doing Superbad, comedy movie, and Jonah Hill and Michael Cera, and you can watch it on Foxtel in Australia, or YouTube, Google Play. Yeah. That's about it.
Awesome. You guys have both seen it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, okay, cool. I'm going in blind on this one. I hope it's enjoyable. I'm sure, if you guys recommended it again, I'm sure it's funny.
I don't know. I feel like it's definitely, after knowing you for a few years, I feel like it's might not exactly be your humor, but I guess we'll see.
Oh no! Now I'm scared. All right, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, okay. Well, that should be an interesting diversion from this discussion that we can all kind of agree that this Reloaded movie was, it was what it was. Transitioning to just differences in humor. That's just so, humor's basically one of the most objective things out there. So that's interesting.
Murray.
Anyway. Sorry, what was that, Fitzy?
Oh, I just said Murray.
Murray?
Humor is subjective, Murray.
Murray? Yeah, I got it. Oh, God. All right. So, reminder, this week's question is about your favourite film soundtrack. Let us know in the comments. We'll read them out next week. All the social media links, as always, in the YouTube description. Liam, Jan, thank you for joining me this week.
No worries.
Jan just hated it.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't remember if in past weeks that we actually say something there or if we just kind of leave it. Sorry.
Nah, it doesn't matter. You don't have to say anything,
Yeah, no, we'll leave it alone. Just nothing.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool, sick. All right.
Thanks for joining us.
Have a great rest of your week. Oh, thanks, Leah. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
That's right.
Have a great rest of your week, audience members, and goodbye.